There are many people that are curious of the relationship, the spiritual bond between contemplative outreach and St. Benedict's Monastery. And in particular, what is my take on it as abbot of St. Benedict's, and I've been abbot here 28 years, so it goes back to just about the beginning of the relationship. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, when I look at contemplative outreach, I see it as an extension of the experience of our monastic life being made available to a much wider audience, you might say, or a much wider range of practitioners. I see that the experience of Father Thomas Keating, Basil Pennington, and William Menninger, these people had lived the monastic life for decades before they got together and tried to formulate a way to communicate that to other people, to make it understandable and available to people who weren't living in a cloister and weren't following a monastic schedule, but still had this calling to the deep, quiet, contemplative prayer. And in fact, we're finding it hard to find guides for that kind of prayer. So Father Thomas, Father William, Father Basil tried to come up with this method, and they did, and it spread rather fast. Our connection in particular came about when Father Thomas Keating retired as abbot of Spencer and came back to Snowmass, St. Benedict's Monastery, where he had been prior before being elected abbot of Spencer. And when he came back, he became the guest master, and he tried to do a good job helping people into the experience of prayer and contemplation. And that's when he thought more seriously of organizing the preparation and the presentation of centering prayer, so that it would have not only an ability to go out there, but a support system to hold it in place and to encourage it and to open new frontiers as it moved along. And he did this in a couple different formats. The local parish priest asked him to come down right to Basalt. He gave something to the monks. And most importantly, I think, in the process was the Lama retreat that he gave to a certain number of people. And from there, the flame took off. So I've always felt a closeness to it because I've felt it is our monastic life made available and shared by a much wider range of people than we have in the monastery cloister. And we have the same source, the same nourishment, and we're totally taken up in the same experience of that openness to the communion with the infinite loving God. So it's really a question of feeling we are brothers and sisters in the same process, that we're coming out of the same sources and the same experience, and we've found a way to share it, a way that is practiced by thousands of people. Here at Snowmass, we have the particular connection of supporting a 10-day retreat once a month, so we get to see a certain number of people and practitioners coming. And again, the feeling that we're all in the same practice, the same experience of God, the same calling, the invitation from God to set aside the time. I will lead her into the desert, and there I'll speak to her heart. And each time, each period of mental prayer, of centering prayer, is for me that call into the desert, and God speaks to our heart. So I feel we're sharing that. When people come and I get to greet them for the 10-day intensive, I have that total sense of we are brothers and sisters. We've been doing this together, and we'll share in the experience and go forth from this strengthened. And I really mean that all of us go forth, because I get strengthened by watching what happens with people and by hearing their experiences of it, and how different people have had their lives transformed, how they've found a richness that they hadn't experienced before in the structured Christian church. They didn't find the exact teaching on contemplative prayer that they would find helpful. They looked around at many other traditions and then were delighted to find that within the Christian church, and actually Catholic Church, there were traditions that could nurture and support and teach them and lead them deeper in their contemplative experience. So that's how I see it. I see this brotherhood, brothers and sisters, practicing the same thing, starting from the same source, related to the same people who, in fact, designed the method, Father Thomas and Father William and Father Basil. We have that. We have the supporting of each other with retreats as we go along and different exchanges back and forth. And we look forward to a future where that just grows. So that's how I look upon the relationship of our monastery here and Contemplative Outreach Organization. A lot of people wonder, what is the value, what is the relationship, what is the significance or importance of this form of prayer for a whole world that we're living in right now, for the people that are practicing it, but even for the wider world. And how I see it primarily is this. As humans, our life works when we come out of our center, when we are in touch with who we are at our deepest depth, and at the very deepest part of that is where we connect with God, where God is calling us into being, and where God is manifesting through us. To the extent that we can be in touch with that and manifest that, that's what we bring into our actions and then bring into the world. And our world so deeply needs it. So obviously, we look around, read the newspaper, we see the immense need that we can come to a world and bring it love and forgiveness and trust and generosity and caring in place of the greed and the selfishness and the unforgiving and the resentment and so on that is so seemingly native to our fallen human nature. So we want to be able to bring this God presence from the depths of our being into a world that is crying out for it. And in particular, why I'm centering on this prayer is because our world offers a distraction in any number of ways. I mean, distraction has always been a part of the human existence, and we read the Desert Fathers, and they'll talk about distraction and so on. But with our incredible intelligence creating technology, we have so multiplied the possibility of distraction, of being in touch with my iPhone and my iPad and my internet and my this and my that I never get quiet. I can be in the car and I'm talking, or I'm doing this and I'm talking, or I'm working at something and I have something playing in my ear. And to some extent, multitasking is a benefit, I suppose, but the risk is we don't ever quiet down enough to get down into that inside part of our soul so that we can get refreshed there and we can bring from that point, that place of being in us, that presence, the presence of God in us, the presence of our deepest human spirit, we can bring that into the world through our actions, through writing, through whatever we do, or I believe actually even just by living it and by praying it, it has a beneficial effect on the world and can quiet down the noise and quiet down all of those impulses we have toward operating out of the false self and bring us as a human family more into the true self, the God being that each of us shares, so that we really are in this world transforming it with the Christ energy and the God energy. So that's how I look upon the value of this prayer and the technique in particular, the method in particular of quieting the mind in the midst of all our technological distraction possibility, to quiet down into that place so that we can be there and come from there in our action and in our prayer. And so we're talking about a 30th anniversary of contemplative outreach. And so when we say anniversary like this, the phrase that came to mind was from markings by Dag Hammarskjöld. And in the center of that book, at a transition point for himself, he came up with this phrase: "For all that has been, thanks. To all that will be, yes." And that's where I stand when we do this 30th anniversary. For all that has been, for these 30 years, and as I was talking earlier, for all of the monastic history that goes into the preparation for this, all that has been, thanks. Thanks for the meeting at Lama, and thanks for the people that joined, and thanks for the people that really have taken it seriously and are practicing it, and thanks for the presenters that are doing their role in it, and so on. So for all that has been, thanks. And then we turn and say, to all that will be, yes, because we don't know. There are new things that are going to be happening. There are new people that will be joining it and will be enlivened by it and bring their gifts to it. That's the beauty in life, is the exchange. Each person brings his own gifts to what is happening and can enrich what's going on. So we can look forward with joy to how it will be, look forward to the retreats which we will be having here at St. Benedict's for whosoever can judge the future, infinite time, and the joy of what that'll mean as it spreads in the world. But to take this moment for a thanks for all that has been and a yes to what will be.